It's game day as the Maple Leafs return home from the road trip and face the Winnipeg Jets. We'll preview that game and tell you everything you need to know from a busy Leafs practice on Tuesday on today's edition of the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome into the Locked On Leafs podcast, the daily Maple Leafs Center podcast hosted by myself, Mike DiStefano, and my co-host Dave Morassutti. Today's episode is brought to you by Sleeper. Download the Sleeper app and use the code LOCKEDONNHL to get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. See Sleeper's terms of use for details. A bunch of stuff went down Tuesday during the Maple Leafs practice, so we'll get to kind of the news and notes about what's going on, the latest with Ryan Reaves, and then the Jets are in town, Dave. Got an all-Canadian clash tonight with one of the hottest teams in the National Hockey League coming to Toronto. Going to be a good matchup. Usually is a little bit of a West Coast rivalry for the Maple Leafs over the years, so I'm sure tonight's game will be a fun one. So we'll definitely preview that game in just a little bit. But some news and notes from practice today, and I would assume the kind of news of the day, somewhat, sort of, is that Ryan Reaves was activated and taken off of injured reserve. How coincidental do you think the timing is that this happens like a day or two after that Luke Fox story comes out? Like,
it's convenient for sure.
Convenient? I don't know if convenience. A little
the convenience of it is that Tyler Bertuzzi is now a non-roster player because he's dealing with his wife expected to give birth. So it was an easy where they're like, well, there's a roster spot here because Bertuzzi's off the roster right now.
Yeah, that part was
convenient.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, the fact that a day after, oh yeah, we were gonna activate you off IR anyways. You didn't have to go out and do that, man. Sure.
I would imagine there was a call placed into General Manager Brad Treliving's office from one Gary Bettman that probably said something along the lines of, what the hell is going on over there? If this guy's healthy and squawking about it, bring him off IR, or we're going to have some sort of investigation, and who knows what comes of it. But yeah, coincidentally ends up getting taken off IR. Now he's not going to play. He's not expected to play. He was not in the lineup, the projected lineup at practice today, skating as the extra forward, as we all expect. So he will be kind of the healthy scratch. But still, it kind of does now force the hand where it's like, all right, the Leafs are going to have to do something soon. They don't have to make a move yet because, as you noted, Tyler Bertuzzi, I guess the other kind of news of the day is he's not expected to play tonight. His wife is expecting a baby either Tuesday or Wednesday. It's coming. So he's on, paternity leave, and good chance he doesn't end up suiting up for the Maple Leafs in this game against the Jets. Now, again, that doesn't mean that Ryan Reaves is going to play, but it does mean that he is off of the active roster, Bertuzzi being him in this case. Therefore, Reaves is able to come on, and he becomes the 23rd player on the roster. However, when Bertuzzi is ready to come back and is going to be good to go the following game on, will they play Friday or Saturday? They got to go back out to Winnipeg and play them in a home and home series here. If Bertuzzi joins him on that road trip and no one else gets hurt, then the Leafs have a decision to make, whether it's putting Ryan Reaves on waivers or it's putting, McMahon on waivers. Do they send down Holmberg? Do they send down Robertson? I saw somebody mention Matthew Nyes, which I thought was ludicrous. I know. I'll tell you who it was. I'm not going to blast this person, but he's an old Leafs Twitter flame. Who does like to stir it up a little bit sometimes. Not going to give him the light of day here, but the Leafs are going to have to make a decision at some point now that Reaves is officially healthy and off of IR.
They're gonna have to make decisions at some point soon, anyways, because Reeves coming back. Once Joseph Woll comes back, like you're gonna carry 3 goaltenders.
Yeah.
Don't see you're not placing Martin Jones on waivers. You got to make a decision. Yeah, we did mention they do have some extra defensemen on the roster that could go down. But yeah, no, like it's up
They also
front.
require waivers too. Keep that in mind.
They do. They
Like
don't like
Lagesson, Benoit, Timmins, they all require waivers as well.
yeah, and you're not like right now. Benoit is definitely not going to be that guy that gets put on
No,
waivers.
no.
The forwards there is an abundance of forwards on this team right now, and we talked about it yesterday. Like Nick Robertson, he'll be getting I think a bit of a boost with Bertuzzi out. Doesn't look like a guy that should be coming out of the lineup right now, right? But at the same time, if you don't want to make that tough decision of putting someone on waivers, the best option you have is looking at guys who don't require waivers.
And the guy who's been scratched
Robertson.
in 7 of the last 13 games, Nick Robertson, probably is someone who would be at the top of the list. Or you just pull the Band-Aid off and you tell Ryan Reaves, hey, we tried. You know, we gave you the contract. We thought it was going to work out, and it hasn't. You can report to the Marlies, or you can do whatever the hell you want, but we need to move forward, and it's just not going to work with you being on the active roster. Unfortunately, not only for cap reasons, but the team's better off with other guys in the lineup at the end of the day. So they'll have a decision to make. That's for sure. They certainly will at some point, whether or not they do want to rip the Band-Aid off and they make that hard choice with Ryan Reaves, or they send someone else down on waivers. Something is going to happen when Bertuzzi returns, unless another injury, happens, which could
also
be...
just to make myself clear, those are the last guys I want to pull on waivers because it should be Ryan Reaves. I just want to make that clear to everybody. Just so
yeah. Like if we're doing a power ranking, Reaves at the top, but if they want to, for whatever reason, not go there, then you get to your Robertsons, maybe Holmberg. I saw someone else mention like even possibly waive Noah Gregor. Actually, it was the same person. It was the same person. So I'm just like, I don't know what this guy's thinking today or what.
Given up. We already gave away Sam Lafferty for peanuts. Let's not give away other guys just so that Ryan Reaves can keep a spot in the lineup for whatever reason.
Thank you, Dave. Sensible human. The other news, obviously, which we talked about, Tyler Bertuzzi was absent from practice with his wife expecting a baby, so he probably will not play. So it kind of jumbled up the lineup a little bit. So why don't we pull up the Maple Leafs lineup that we saw at practice today? This is the projected starting lineup for tonight's game against the Winnipeg Jets. You'll see Matthew Nyes back up on the top line with Austin Matthews and Mitch Marner. Pontus Holmberg gets a little twirl on the second line with John Tavares and William Nylander. Nick Robertson draws back into the game. He'll get a second consecutive start. He'll be alongside Domi and Yarncroc. That line has provided some secondary offense when they are put together. And then Noah Gregor, David Kampf, and Bobby McMahon will make up the fourth line. Defensively, you got Morgan Riley and TJ Brody, Jake McCabe and Timothy Liljegren, Simon Benoit and Connor Timmins. So we talked about it yesterday. You said, hey, maybe they should think about sitting Mark Giordano upstairs for a couple of games. Looks like that might be happening here. He is slated to be a healthy scratch again, Dave.
It's so hard to change that lineup after what had happened against Seattle. Look, Seattle's not Vancouver. I'll give Giordano that. That was a tougher matchup for him, but they played well against Seattle. I think you just have to roll with it. See how they do against a better team like the Jets. If this is a lineup that works, it's a lineup you got to keep with. Sorry, Mark. You've done a lot of good things, but if this lineup's giving us the better chance to win, you have to go with it.
Yeah, and that's what they're going to do. They're going to kind of roll it back and see what happens. So, and Ilya Samsonov gets the start as well. So, even rolling back with the goaltender, is that the right call, you think, to give Ilya Samsonov a second consecutive start? I think it's his first time that he's made consecutive starts since December 9th and December 11th. So, it's been like 6 weeks since this guy has been given the reins to start in not back to back nights, but just back to back games. And he was supposed to be his team's like number one, and he hasn't started in back to back games and been trusted to do that since early December.
Yeah, I mean, I'm gonna steal a little bit of what your boy Brian Hayes had to say on Overdrive, which was if they didn't give Samsonov this game after he came off a win, it really shows what the organization thinks of him and the
Yeah.
work he's put in. Like it would have, to me, it's Martin Jones has been used too much, and yeah, he's been given a few days off, but you got a guy who got the win for you. You need to get his confidence built up a little bit here because we don't know for sure if Joseph Woll's coming back after the All-Star break. See if you can get Samsonov's confidence, really test him against a team like the Jets. If he
Yeah.
falters in this one, then it's easy to go to Jones for the next one.
Well, why don't we pick up on this conversation on the other side? Because I do think that this could be a pivotal start for him and his confidence moving forward. So we could break that down a little bit more on the other side. We'll break down what to expect in this matchup between the Jets and the Maple Leafs tonight, who's going to be in and out for Winnipeg. And then we've got our 3 keys to victory as well. All that coming up on the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day.
Today's episode of Locked On Leafs podcast is brought to you by Indeed. We're driven by the search for better, but when it comes to hiring, the best way to search for a candidate isn't to search at all. Don't search, match with Indeed. If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Indeed is your matching and hiring platform with over 350 million global monthly visitors to Indeed, according to Indeed data, and a matching engine that helps you find quality candidates fast. Ditch the busy work. Use Indeed for scheduling, screening, and messaging so you can connect with candidates faster. And Indeed doesn't just help you hire faster. 93% of employers agree Indeed delivers the highest quality matches compared to other job sites, according to a recent Indeed survey. Leveraging over 140 million qualification and preferences every day, Indeed's matching engine is constantly learning from your preferences. So the more you use Indeed, the better it gets. Join more than 3.5 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/locked on. Indeed.com/locked on. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano with Dave Morassutti. We are your hosts here at Locked On Leafs. It's a daily Maple Leaf centric podcast. We got new shows coming out each and every weekday, Monday through Friday, giving you everything you need to know about your Toronto Maple Leafs all week long. And you can find our show wherever you get your podcast from. You can subscribe to it also and check us out on YouTube. Locked On Leafs, and you'll get that daily dose, that daily hit of Leafs content from us each and every weekday. All right, let's pick up on that Ilya Samsonov conversation that we were kind of you started to chat about just briefly before we kind of took a little bit of a break there, but we were talking about, or you were talking about how it really kind of says something when if they would have not gone back to him, where they would think, yeah, he had one good game, but I don't know if he's got it yet, and then went back to Martin Jones. I think this is a big prove-it game for him. I think this is a pivotal start for him this season. I don't know if I want to go ahead and say career, but like definitely a pivotal start for his Leafs career. Because if things go south tonight, Dave, and he goes and he allows another 5 spot like he's done previously, it just won't be good for him. It won't be good for the team. Won't be good for his confidence. And then where are you at when it comes to Ilya Samsonov. That's where things really would get dicey.
And the reason why this game is the easier one for him to start, the next game is in Winnipeg. Winnipeg fans and that crowd, not very kind to opposing goaltenders as well. So for me, yeah, like Samsonov needs to show in this game. He doesn't necessarily need to win. Okay. This is a really good Winnipeg Jets team, but he needs to show that he is more of the goaltender you saw against the Kraken than he has been the last month. And to me, that's what's important here.
Question for you. For Samsonov, like, do you care how many goals he lets in tonight, or do you just want to make sure that he looks good in net, if you know what I mean?
Yeah, like if he allows 3 or 4 goals, it's not really that. It's how the goals are going in. How's his body language after he allows a goal? If he allows a goal, very good opportunity. Maybe he gets a shutout. That's wishful thinking, I know. But like, what's his body language like after he allows a goal, right? Is he allowing that to really impact him mentally, right? He allows that goal against Seattle and it didn't phase him. We have seen in other games where he allows a goal and he unravels. And to me, that's what's more important. Can he make the big saves when it matters? You can't expect perfection out of goaltenders every time. So it's, can they step up in the key moments? Because the goaltender on the other side is really good, and he is going to make those key saves. Like, Connor Hellebuyck hasn't allowed more than 3. Like, that game against Boston was the first time he allowed more than 3 goals, or the Jets in general have allowed more than 3 goals.
The 4th goal was an empty netter, so technically he didn't even let it in. It was just as an empty net goal. But
that was more than 3 goals the first time in 35 games. So insane. If the Leafs allow 3 goals, good chance the Jets are able to win that one because they're not allowing a lot on their own end. But for Samsonov, it's all about how is his body language if he allows a goal, and when are the goals coming, right? Is it coming on the first shot of the game like we've seen? Is it coming where, he's gotten a chance to make the save, but he doesn't track it well or something like that. It's how is his focus in those moments?
Yeah, so this isn't a game where you're necessarily going to look at the box score, I think, and make your determination on whether or not it was a good one from Samsonov is pretty much what you're saying. That's what I believe as well. I think this is one where you're going to have to watch the game and understand how the flow of the game is going. And did he make some big stops at key moments? And, what happened on the goals that he did allow and what happened after those goals as well. I think that's going to kind of be a key determination on, whether or not we'll sit here and say on tomorrow's show whether or not Samsonov had a good game or not, or whether or not it was another step in the right direction, because took a big leap in that win over the Kraken. If he can, doesn't have to necessarily win tonight, doesn't have to post a shutout, but does he look good? Does he look calm in his net? And did he make a few big saves? And how did he, hold himself, compose himself after he did let in a goal or 2 throughout the game? That's kind of what we'll be looking for and talking about tomorrow night. Good chance to, I guess, say that Ilya Samsonov will be our Leafs locked on player tonight. We'll be locked into what's going on with Ilya Samsonov in goal. I think he's probably a good candidate for that. Is there a good candidate that you'll be locked in on the Winnipeg Jets tonight, Dave?
They've been so banged up, so I think
Mark Scheifele is going to be out. Gabe Vilardi, Mark Scheifele's on IR, so he won't be playing. Gabe Vilardi is day to day, but I don't believe he's expected to play either.
No, it looks like Gabe Vilardi, I don't think he's going to play. I thought Scheifele was going to be back. It seemed like he was going to be close, and that didn't happen. I think
at this point you might as well just hold him out till the break.
Yeah, I think you're definitely doing that. For me, the player to watch, it was going to be Gabe Vilardi, but obviously he's not going to be playing. Kyle Connor.
Mm.
This is someone who's been on the shelf for a while. He's been back the last few games. Let's see. He's going to have to pick up a lot of the slack with Scheifele and Velarde out.
You know what's amazing? Let me double check this, but I'm pretty sure I'm right on this. Kyle Connor was out for what, like 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, or something like that, with an injury. Like he missed a lot of time, didn't he?
He did. I
I'm pretty
think
sure he still leads the Jets in scoring.
he was on a heater.
Dude, he
Absolute
was
heater.
neck and neck, man. It was like him, Besser, and Austin Matthews. They were all literally neck and neck until Kyle Connor got hurt. But yeah, he still leads the team with 18 goals in 29 games. So yeah, he ended up missing, what's that? I guess 16 games
Yeah, he
is what he
missed like
ended up.
6 to 8 weeks with that injury.
Yeah.
And
And he still, despite missing like 6 weeks, 16 games, he still leads the team in goals with 18. So, yeah, he's definitely going to be one to keep an eye on tonight if you are the Toronto Maple Leafs, and try and stop him from getting some good looks on goal. I think that would be a good idea for the Maple Leafs. In terms of the matchup tonight, Winnipeg, they're coming in. They're one of the best teams in the NHL. In terms of win percentage, I believe they actually might be the best team in hockey. They're 30, 11, and 4. And like you just said, they went on an incredible streak, 35 games in a row prior to their last game against Boston, where they had allowed 3 or less goals against. So it's going to be a tough matchup. It really, really is going to be a hard game for the Maple Leafs. You look at the goals against per game for the Winnipeg Jets, 2.29. 2.29. So if you don't score 3 goals against this Winnipeg Jets team, or usually if Winnipeg can score themselves 3 goals in a game, they usually win. So for Toronto, you got to try and limit Winnipeg to 2 or less. And with Samsonov in net, I don't know how much I love that idea of that happening, which is odd because we were quickly taking a look at the FanDuel lines, and Toronto's favored like pretty heavily at -140. And I look at the goaltending matchup, and I just don't know how that should be the case. And Winnipeg at plus money, we're looking at it here on FanDuel. The Jets are plus 116 on the money line. I mean, it's a race to 3 goals. And I think that the Jets, with Samsonov in net, like, I know we just talked about how we hope he bounces back and he looked good in his last game, but I mean, 3 goals isn't that difficult. And it's not even like Samsonov would have to play bad for that to happen. Um, if I'm a betting man, honestly, I do like the value on the Jets on the money line.
yeah,
Maybe blasphemous as a host of Locked On Leafs to say, but that's just good value from a betting perspective.
you bet with your brain and not your heart.
Yeah.
Always tell people that when it comes to betting, but the Jets they've been a model team this year on like and the thing is, they're not just a good defensive team because they're scoring too. Like they're not blowing teams out when it comes to scoring, but they're up there and
12th.
no,
They're 12th for goals per game.
yeah, and they're allowing the fewest goals in the NHL. Like there's good balance there for what they're getting, and it's equal. Like we're talking about, like Kyle Connor leads the team in scoring, but he doesn't even have 20 goals because they have a balanced lineup and they're getting contributions throughout. Now, that being said, when they went on this heater streak, they didn't have all these injuries. Like the injuries, I think, are going to start piling up and might be an issue. Scheifele, Velarde, especially, like, those are two.
Kyle Connor, they were missing Kyle Connor.
Yeah, having Kyle Connor back really does help. But I mean, Velarde and Scheifele, those are two key guys.
Yeah.
That's not an easy feat for this team. But again, as you said, it's not about the goals they score, it's the goals they don't allow. And that's
Yeah.
going to be the issue for Toronto.
Yeah. Now I will say this, like they've had good success against the Jets. Ever since the Jets had that little, is there anything better than beating the Leafs? Little, tirade there, if you recall that. The Leafs have gotten the best of Winnipeg of late. They've won 7 of the last 10 games. 4-1, 4-1, 7-3 being the scores in the last 3 games that they've played them. So, Toronto's played this team very well, but I think that these squads are in a bit of a different situation this year than they had been in the previous couple of seasons. Um, it's gonna be tough for Toronto to get the win. It's not that they can't beat them. It's not that they don't have a roster good enough. I just Winnipeg's playing such good hockey right now. Why don't we break, come back, and get to the 3 keys to victory for Toronto? Like we said, might be tough, but it's doable. But they got to do these 3 keys, these 3 things tonight to get it done. So we'll come back in just a moment and get to those. You're listening to the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's show is brought to you by Sleeper. It's almost the halfway point in the season, Leaf fans, regardless of whether you are where you are in the current standings. I want to remind you that you could win big by playing daily fantasy hockey on Sleeper, the official daily fantasy app of the Locked On NHL Network. Sleeper is our number 1 choice for daily fantasy sports and especially daily fantasy hockey. Because with Sleeper, you can win 100 times your cash in daily fantasy hockey contests. All you have to do is pick whether studs like Matthews or McDavid or McKinnon or Nylander or Marner, whoever, will record more or less than their sleeper projections for things like goals, assists, saves, plus, minus, and more in any given game. To win 100 times your bet on Sleeper, you need to correctly predict the outcome of 8 player stats. You heard me, Leaf fans. You can win 100 times your money by playing daily fantasy hockey with Sleeper. So start paying attention and nail your picks so you can start winning big. Use the promo code LOCKEDONNHL and you'll get up to a $100 match on your first deposit. Terms and conditions apply. That's code LOCKEDONNHL. See Sleeper's terms of use for details and locational availability. Welcome back into the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's Mike DiStefano and Dave Morassutti. Thank you so much for tuning into today's show. Got a game tonight, Leafs and Jets down at Scotia Bank Arena. Toronto's first game down there in a little bit. They were just out west on a 4-game road trip. They come back and they got to face a Western Canadian team and then go back to Winnipeg for the next game in a couple of days. I'm not sure why the hell they didn't just play in Winnipeg and then both literally flip these 2 dates. I mean, I'm assuming there was a conflict of some kind. Check and see if there's something going on at Scotiabank Arena.
I was literally just pulling up the calendar.
Yeah, there's like some sort of concert or monster jam or something silly that's going on because these guys play again in a couple of days.
I think the Raptors actually have a home game on. Oh no, that's on Friday. What are those? I don't see anything on Saturday. Interesting.
Yeah. So they don't play. Is it on Friday? The game's on Saturday, right? The Leafs going out to the Winnipeg
is on. I thought maybe the Raptors playing, but the Raptors playing on the Friday night. So that's not the reason.
No, it could be a concert or something. Anyways, doesn't matter.
Or they may have just wanted to be like, yeah, let's give the Jets a Saturday night home game. Could also been that.
Why? You want it to be home in Toronto?
Look. We could see why the
NHL would prefer it's in Toronto. You know what I mean? Like people in Winnipeg, then it's going to be a 5:00 local start in Winnipeg, and they're going to cry about it for an hour.
Well, they're going to cry regardless. That's just the way that things go with the Jets.
Well, depending on how the game goes, because they're playing some pretty good hockey. But look, the Leafs played some good hockey the other night in Seattle, and they've played good hockey at times throughout the season. They've played some poor hockey and some bad hockey too. It's been a very unfortunate season for the Maple Leafs because they've been so inconsistent. It's been very tough to bet on them. Like when I'm doing my covers betting articles, it's just so tough because you never know what you're going to get out of this team on any given night. And it's not easier when you put Ilya Samsonov between the pipes either. Let's get to the 3 keys to victory, though, for the Maple Leafs tonight. And you know what? I think I'm going to start with like the third key there since we were just talking about Samsonov. But
Mhm.
like he's going to have to be on his A game because you know the guy on the other side is going to be in Connor Hellebuck. His stats this year are just absolutely incredible. You look at, goals saved above expected. He's number one in the league. He's got a 217 goals against average, a 925 save percentage. In a year where goal scoring is up and most goaltending statistics have cratered. Like the league average this year is like 902, where it's usually in the 910-ish range. Last year, I think it was 907. And he's just exceeding all of it. So you're going to have to match that, right? Samsonov's going to have to match that. And he's going to have to be confident. He's going to have himself a real solid game to give this Maple Leafs team a chance to win the hockey game. Has to.
Yeah, positionally, he needs to be sound. He can't, wander too much in his crease. And the Jets are the thing about it is at home, for some reason, he doesn't feel as comfortable than when he's on the road, Ilya Samsonov. So
Yeah.
I think he just gotta hone it in. Crowd's gotta give him a little bit of energy, just make him feel comfortable. And he's gotta take it minute by minute, make the first save and go on from there.
Oh, I'm just looking at his home road splits. He's 6-3-6 at home with an 866 save percentage. Not
Not
great for you, Samsonov. That's going to have to turn around for sure to give them a chance to win this hockey game. One of my other keys for tonight, I think they got to play fast. They really got to play fast. They got to play kind of off the rush. Like I think the Jets, they're going to want to slow the game down and make it physical.
yeah.
That's how the Jets style of game is, right? They're not a run and gun team. So I think the Maple Leafs, they're going to have to, be strong and quick on their breakouts, play with speed through the neutral zone and attack off the rush and then get themselves set and try and work the puck and attack the net. But I think playing with speed against a team like Winnipeg to try and break down that strong neutral zone defense, I think is going to be it's going to be key, right? I really think that is going to be. So playing fast and strong off the rush, I think is going to be a big factor if the Maple Leafs have any chance of winning tonight.
Especially that third line of Domi, Yarncroke, and Robertson.
Yeah, great rush line.
Like that's those Robertson and Domi especially. They have this chemistry off the rush. Like Domi just knows where to get the puck to Robertson in those scoring areas, and they got to do more of that. That's something that
Yep.
they got to rely on. Especially this Jets team is not a small team; they're a big team.
Yeah.
You're gonna have to find ways to get around those big bodies.
For sure. And I mean, it's cliche, but get off to a good start and then follow it up with a full 60-minute effort because that's what it's going to take to play against this Winnipeg Jets team. Like they're the number one team in the league in terms of win percentage. If you want to win games here against a team like that, you got to play the full 60 minutes and you're going to have to play with your foot on the gas the whole way because you know that the Winnipeg Jets are going to do just that. So get off to a good start, build some confidence, build confidence in Samsonov also by doing so. Protect him as much as you can and then do that for the remainder of the 60 minutes. Pick your moments when you're ready to attack and not cheat, but when you have an opportunity, take it. Because it's not going to come very often against a Jets team that suppresses shots, suppresses chances and opportunities. If you look at all the underlying metrics, they're like in the top 6, 7 of every defensive category there is. So they're not going to give you a whole lot. So when it's there, you do got to take it, but don't cheat. Don't cheat for the offense either.
If you want to get a sense of just how good Winnipeg is when they score first and they have a lead, they are 7-0-1 when they score first.
They've only scored first 8
on
times.
Away on the road.
Okay. On the road.
They are 19-2-1 overall when they score first. That's a pretty good record. So when they're leading a game, obviously, as I said, 7-0-1, 22-1-1 when they have a lead. So this is a team that likes to have the lead. When they are trailing in a game, they're 2-9-1, 1-4 on the road. Get this team playing from behind.
Yep.
You give up the lead, you let them get a lead, they are not giving it back. Or more times than not, they are not giving it back. That's good start is really prevalent in this game.
So we said earlier it's almost like it's going to be a race to 3 because you don't get more than that against the Winnipeg Jets. It might be a race to 1 tonight. It sounds
In
like.
the first period, if the Leafs do not get that first goal, it's going to be tough. Or they might buck and reverse the trend because they might be the one that gives the Jets their first loss in regulation when they have score first. But that's a telling stat right there. This is how that's the focus. That is the mentality of this Jets team. Score first. We're going to win this game.
Yep. Should be a good one regardless. There's a lot of firepower in this game, and there's always fireworks between these two clubs too. Like I said, they don't play often, but it's been a budding rivalry when you think back to the days of the Canadian series or the Canadian division matchup, and there was the Jason Spezza, Neil Pionk suspension situation. I think Sandin ended up getting hurt in that game too, and
Yep.
so there's some fireworks. And last year, I remember there being Wayne Simmons came out, and it was he was a guy who hadn't been playing a lot, kind of a Ryan Reaves situation, and he puts him into the lineup knowing that it was going to be a physical game, which also is interesting too. Actually, I never really thought about this, but doesn't that say something that Keefe knows it's going to be a physical game because it always is. And last year in games like this, that's where you would see Wayne Simmons get an opportunity to come into the lineup. Doesn't look like Reaves is even going to get that chance. This is the type of game where you would expect that to happen. Maybe it happens in when they go out on the road, perhaps. But to me, that might say something about what they think of Ryan Reaves and if he'll ever get back into their lineup.
Yeah, I mean, you're going up against a team that's the top team in the NHL, and it's not just because they're a physical team, it's because they're a good team, they're a deep team. They're not going to get intimidated by Ryan Reaves being in the lineup.
Yeah.
Like, if the Leafs felt like after the game that they need to put that in, then that conversation can be had. But right now, they need to focus more on what the Jets do on the ice with their scoring and their defense than they need to do with their shenanigans.
Yeah, because I mean, when they do play Ryan Reaves, he plays like 6 minutes a night, 5 minutes a night. So he hasn't played nearly enough to make an impact where the Jets or any other team for that matter have to really think about him all that much, which is also why I think it's silly to suggest that Ryan Reaves needs to be on the team. It's like the guy plays for 5 minutes a game. No, he doesn't. No, he does not need to be on the ice and be in the lineup and sit on the bench. Just flat out does not. But anyways, and again, we'll be monitoring that situation. He's activated. He's on the active roster now. He's going to be up in the press box as a healthy scratch, and we'll see if he ends up getting back into the lineup at some point here. But should be a fun game. Should be a really, really good one. I'm excited for it. But that'll do it for us here today on the podcast. I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to the Locked On Leafs podcast on all platforms and receive daily Leafs content. Follow myself on X at Mickey_Canuck. Follow Dave at D_Morassutti. Follow the show as well at Locked On Leafs. Go ahead, smash that like button if you enjoyed watching or listening on YouTube. Comment down below your thoughts. Is Ilya Samsonov back? Is this a fork in the road kind of game for Sammy? Curious to get your thoughts on that question down below. We'll be back with another episode for you guys. Tomorrow we will break down the game between the Leafs and the Winnipeg Jets. Go Leafs, go. Enjoy the game. Until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.